That's right. I need your help with my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Deathblade here, also known as Jeremy, and I am a translator, a writer, and a YouTuber. I need your help with my channel. Let me explain. I'm going to switch over here to my channel view. And if you see here, this is my channel, and going all the way back down through these videos, the very first video I did when I started doing the channel seriously is this one right here, which is What Are Chinese Fantasy Novels? And as you can see, that was 4 years ago that I did that video. There are a few other videos I did before. I think the very first one was 6 years ago, and these are just kind of some random things I did. But when it comes to the Chinese fantasy novel FAQ, which is what I primarily did for the past 4 years, that was 4 years ago, as you can see right here. A lot has changed in 4 years, both on my side and on the industry side. Let me explain what I mean. Back in the day, 4 years ago, when I started doing this kind of content, nobody was talking about wuxia and xianxia. And when I say nobody, I don't mean like literally nobody, but very few people were talking about this stuff. I was living in China at the time, and one of the things I would do, I remember doing it initially on a weekly basis in the class that I taught, because I taught kids in China. We would have a break, and usually it was on Saturday or Sunday because those were my long days. On one of my breaks, I would sit down on Twitter and I would go and check wuxia and xianxia on Twitter and kind of scroll through everything to see what people were talking about, respond to some things, hit some likes here and there. And that was what the scene was like years ago. Nobody was talking about it. Now, why did I start the channel here with the what are Chinese fantasy novels and all these things? You know, you can see my first initial videos are Mount Tai and Face, why are there fatties in Chinese fantasy novels? If I remember correctly, this is the first video of mine that got demonetized. Apparently that's edgy content or something. In any case, the reason why I did it is because in those days, working full-time as a translator, I just noticed people asking questions in the comments or talking about things that confused them or things that they didn't understand. And sometimes I would respond in the comments, sometimes I would write little posts and put them at the end of the chapters. And then I thought, you know, why not do videos on the subject? And then in the future, whenever somebody says something like, face is not realistic, or is face realistic, then I could just put a link to this video and then kind of go into more detail without having to type it all out. That was basically why I started the channel. And I really just wanted to explain to people what I had learned about these things and what I knew about them. And that's why I started the channel. Well, fast forward to now, and if you go onto Twitter and you search for wuxia or xianxia, even xuanhuan, you will find a lot of people talking about it. You can find people on websites and forums talking about it. The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation novel translation is on the shelf at Barnes & Noble. There are Netflix series all over the place. There's a huge fandom that has developed. And so things are definitely different. My channel has always primarily been about the language and cultural aspects, because that's what I know. I started studying Mandarin, many years ago, and then when I got into translating, I knew a lot about the language, and I thought I would share what I knew about the language, and same culturally. Living in China for such a long time, having such close ties with so many Chinese friends in China, including teaching all these kids, having relationships with the parents of the children that were my students. Of course, my wife is Chinese. My extended family in China is all Chinese. So I had all this kind of Westerner perspective of Chinese culture that kind of is the best of both worlds when you're trying to explain Chinese culture to Westerners. I worked really hard at kind of assimilating, becoming part of the culture as much as I could. So that was what my channel has always been about. I have made it pretty clear in numerous videos over the course of the past several years that I don't want to portray myself as being some kind of expert in anything. My videos have basically been me telling people what I know. So after all of these years in which I have translated about 13, 14 million Chinese characters, I think that I do have quite a unique perspective on the Chinese fantasy genres. But am I the most well-read person in terms of Chinese fantasy novels? There's no question that I am not. There are people out there, probably many of you who are watching my videos, who have read way, way, way more content in terms of the Chinese fantasy novels than I have. Now, granted, the work I have done has been immense. I mean, 13 million Chinese characters. Very few people in the world have translated that much. I think for a time, I probably was the individual person who had translated the most Chinese characters of this kind of fiction in the world. At this point, I don't know if I am or not. I'm sure there are people out there either have surpassed me or are going to surpass me. And that's not to mention when you have teams working on it or when you use machine translation or whatever. The point that I'm trying to make is that at this point in time, given that so many more people have jumped on board and are fans of these genres, I don't think that I have even a fraction of the experience in terms of content consumption compared to many other people. And so I'm kind of a little bit hesitant nowadays about what to produce. If there are specific Chinese terms, words, phrases, idioms, that I definitely have insight into. But when it comes to genre conventions, how do authors handle character growth? How do authors handle plot and setting and whatnot? There are definitely people out there, again, including many of you who are watching, who know more than I do. So I feel a little bit weird trying to make authoritative opinion videos about this stuff when you compare my experience of Chinese fantasy genres to other people. I'm actually fairly limited. And so that's why I want your help. I'm interested in hearing what you would like to hear me talk about. What kind of questions do you have? In the earlier videos, I would always end by saying, what questions do you have? Put them in the comments and I'll make videos about them. Over the years, I've made many videos. If you look onto my playlists here, I have 78 videos. So I have done a lot of videos on a variety of different topics. If there are language or culture related topics that I haven't addressed that you're interested in, please do leave comments below and I will do my best to answer them. Sometimes the questions I get can be answered with a simple sentence or two in the comment. Sometimes they justify doing a longer video. So I'm interested in what you're interested in. Let me know. And of course, nowadays I am branching off into other fields. I am doing original fiction for the past, let's see, it's now January 2022. It has now been well over a year, and in fact a year and change, since I have actually done any translating, at least in terms of the novels. I have done work on the side with games and stuff, but in terms of the novels, it's been quite a long time since I've translated anything, and for one full year straight, I've been working on my original series. If you haven't read that series yet, check out the link in the pinned comment or the video description. That said, I do have insight on creating original fiction content, but I'm not sure how many of you out there are interested in hearing that. Should I do videos on my experience writing as opposed to translating? Another factor that plays into it is that when I started doing content, I was actually living in China. I had always envisioned doing some kind of on-the-street videos, going to local restaurants or wherever it was to talk to people or just to show the place that I lived in a maybe vlog style or whatever. I don't live in China anymore, and so that makes my life inherently less interesting, at least from the perspective of Westerners, I think. And so that's something else that I've thought about. Maybe I could do more content related to Chinese culture in the city I live in. I live in San Diego. I actually don't live in San Diego City right now, but I do live in San Diego County. It's one gigantic mega city, essentially. And we do have local Chinese communities. We don't have a Chinatown, but there is a Chinese section of town where there are a lot of restaurants and shops and whatnot. So I guess I could do some content in that regard. I really don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here, trying to wrap my mind about what I am going to be doing going forward, and I would love to hear your opinion. So please do put a comment and let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you. If you like the kind of content I have been making and are interested in what I'm going to be doing going forward, please do like and subscribe and all that stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Godspeed. If you haven't read that series yet, please do check it out. It's in the link below in the comment. Just please do check it out in the pinned comment and the comment. If you haven't checked it out, check out